Welcome back to another episode, Old Fashioned Dad Podcast.
You know,
how you doing, Christian?
I'm doing well. This is probably the closest I've ever sat to you. Our knees are actually touching, which if we didn't acknowledge it throughout the entire podcast, I think
it might be awkward.
It might be a little awkward, but now that we've acknowledged it, is it more or less awkward?
I don't know. It depends on if the government comes for us for not social distancing.
We are definitely not 6 feet apart.
Definitely not.
We are like 6 inches apart. So, you know, and I'm not even wearing a mask, but I am wearing this cool hat.
It acts like a mask. It captures things.
And like a badass, I am going to drink some bourbon now. Which we have some bourbon. I poured some bourbon for you.
It smells good.
And I gave you a fancy glass. I gave you a fancy
like
Waterford Crystal from Ireland.
Mm.
I do not mind this. Now, you might be asking, well, what's the bourbon? This one has a little bite.
Are we going to do a little intro clip?
I guess. I don't know.
After this introduction, we will talk about the bourbon.
We are the Old Fashioned Dad Podcast, seeking to love dads and men through the person and work of Jesus Christ, while entering into tough conversations on marriage, mental health, sex, and parenting, all while sipping good whiskey.
We're back.
Okay, so
rough.
We have
Drayton's making me nervous.
Drayton's just. We have our good buddy Drayton joining us in the audience today. He'll be providing
intimidation,
comic relief, and intimidating stares.
Yeah.
So we're excited to have Drayton here.
He looks like Mr. Clean over here.
It's my whiskey that's talking, that's why.
Yeah. Drayton may get up at any moment and go have more whiskey. Any rate, we are back. We're the Old Fashioned Dad Podcast, and we are excited to see you, to know you, to talk to you, and honestly, really just get together and smoke a cigar. Well, I will be enjoying... Oh my gosh, that smells great.
It's a good one.
He will smoke a cigar. I will talk why I'm not smoking a cigar a little bit later, and we will enjoy some bourbon whiskey. Now, the bourbon that we were drinking...
Yeah, it's tasty.
...comes out of Kentucky, where almost all bourbon that is good comes from. Lucky number 7. Yeah, we can clink glasses.
Get that right up in there.
Just like that.
Yep.
Lucky number 7. And this is called the Holiday Toast. So it's been double oaked, so it's been finished. And we are looking at 115 proof.
Not too shabby.
That's where the burn's coming in. But
it's a smooth burn.
It is
a smooth, slow burn.
It is a smooth.
This is tasty.
Burn.
How much does something like this cost you? Not in a People's Republic like Washington.
Yeah.
With 30% tax or whatever it is.
Washington.
What is the tax rate on what is the sin tax for hard alcohol in this state?
In this state?
Yeah.
I think we pay close to 21%. Like total. We have might even be 27%.
The sales tax? Or that's on top of?
Yeah, that's all the taxes. We
Okay.
pay triple tax here.
Yeah.
So it might be 21%, but we are definitely the highest taxed on liquor in all of the U.S. The contiguous, how do you say it? The contiguous U.S., continental U.S.
Yeah.
There you go. I heard somebody
CONUS.
say, CONUS. I heard somebody say contiguous
CONUS, yeah.
once before, and I was like, well, that sounds interesting.
Is that a word?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay.
It might refer to a body part, but yeah. At any rate, we have delicious bourbon now poured in our glasses, and we have, Christian has a cigar. The reason I'm not smoking a cigar, which is very tempting, so I'll just have to go ahead and enjoy the cigar from what he's smoking. I took the month of February off from smoking cigars, or just smoking in general, to kind of clear out the lungs and the palate, and I was away on vacation all last week. So I guess that was still part of February. I literally had a cigar every single day. So
you made up for lost time.
8 days.
Instead of smoking for an entire month, you smoked that much in a week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that was healthier. No, okay.
Not so
Anyway,
sure.
we do have a topic. We do have a topic today that we want to talk about, and that is adaptation. Being adaptable, maybe even being flexible, not the physical kind. And this isn't going to be one of those episodes where it's, sexual in nature, or talking about sexual intimacy where it's flexibility and whatnot. We're talking about flexibility. Not at this time, anyways. We're talking about flexibility and adaptation to situations in life.
So what's the?
You're going to ask me to define this?
Well, I'm thinking like it sounds a lot like perseverance.
Ah.
What would you say the difference is, or is this like another piece of the coin?
Well, maybe perseverance goes alongside of it, but
Or resilience?
yeah,
which we've talked
perseverance.
about.
Maybe they all kind of work together, right?
Okay.
But adapting, at least in my mind, usually is you have a specific plan in place, and there are variables that, or obstacles maybe, that come up that cause you to adjust your plan, and so that you can continue forward. And sometimes those variables are really difficult, and sometimes they're just, I don't know, minor speed bumps.
I gotcha. Speaking of speed bumps,
Yeah.
why did you? Why were you inspired to want to talk about this topic? Anything
yes, I'm
particular?
glad you brought that up. Glad you brought that up. So, in preparation for today's topic, I was kind of like, well, who are we addressing? We're always addressing dads and
Dressing dads?
dressing dads.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I said.
Yep.
Dressing dads. Addressing dads. And so we spent a lot of time focusing on parenting. So to me, that is talking directly to dads. And so I wanted an episode where it's talking to a broader audience, just men. So it could be, husbands, certainly dads, but it could also just be single guys.
If you have testicles,
If you have testicles.
this one's for you.
Can we say that on this episode?
I just did.
We're not going to get canceled, will we?
I don't know.
Okay. Well,
That's another topic
it's-
for another day.
It's been a long day, and so what comes out of our two mouths are going to be raw and unedited, and Christian will do his best to not edit it.
It's not too hard. I don't do much.
The brains behind this thing.
All right, we're in trouble.
So, what was your question again?
Why are we talking about this topic?
Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I was coming out of my counseling office today, and I was ready to come and record with you. Basically, going to hop in the truck and head on over to my house, and we're going to record.
Yep.
But my wife is helping her dad out with his car, which is having battery issues. And so she said, honey, the car is having issues. I got it running right now. We need to head over to West Seattle and drop the car off at the mechanic shop. Now, back in like 1999, heading over to West Seattle would have been about a 10-minute drive. And it's not this straight linear drive. You have to do a lot of back road driving through streets and stuff like that. But it still would have taken him only about 10 minutes. But since Seattle has grown in population density, I don't know if you've heard of a little company called Amazon. There it is. Amazon.
They're going to say Boeing, but oh yeah, Amazon.
You've heard of Amazon, right?
I've heard of them.
A little company named Amazon has brought talent far and wide from all over the globe to work in Seattle.
So you're just another one of those blame Amazon for all Seattle's woes, huh? You're one of those guys?
I didn't think I was at the beginning of this.
We're going to cancel this guy.
I don't think I was at the beginning of this episode, but I guess I am.
Okay.
Yeah. Feel free to cancel me. I'm still going to keep my Prime membership. Gotta get that music. Gotta get those
There you go.
2-day packages 4 days late.
Not if they bump you off of their platform.
That is true. I do love you, Bezos. I do love you. But it took me what would normally be a 10-minute drive back in 1999, 45 minutes or more to get over there and back. And I thought to myself along the way as I'm punching the windshield, what are we going to talk about? Oh, I know. Being flexible and adapting when life happens or when change requires it. And so you could either fight the change or the transition or the adaptation that's being required of you, fight it, or you can roll with it and actually, dare I say the word, evolve.
Would it be evolve?
I don't know. It's probably not evolve, like, not evolution.
I mean, adapt. Roll with it.
Roll with
is
it.
one we
That's
use.
a good man phrase.
Is one we use
We're
with
going to do
our.
a lot of mansplaining on this episode.
Yeah. Mansplain to the men. That's something I talk to my son a lot because he tends to be very rigid.
He likes to. Does he mansplain?
No. He just, if things don't go the way he expected them to, he loses his mind.
He loses his ever-living mind.
Not too dissimilar to us as adults.
I got you.
Yeah.
You've never had to do any adaptation. I don't like saying it.
It sounds weird. Yeah, adaptation.
adapting. You've never had to do any of that, like in your life, have you?
Like shifting
You've
expectations.
never had to do any of that, have you?
Yeah, it seems like every day. I mean, isn't that just part of the human experience of like, you've got expectations of how the day is going to go,
Mm-hmm.
something sideswipes you,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can either lose your shit and let it ruin the rest of your day, or you can adapt and shift your schedule, or just say, okay, well, this other thing's going to have to wait, which often requires, kind of mentally juggling what's important,
But you haven't
what
had
the
to,
priorities are,
and I fully agree with you. Like, I love that phrase, lose your shit. But you haven't had to do that, like, in a military sense or anything like that, have you? You know, they don't do that in the military. We have to adapt or anything, right?
Sure they do.
That's not what they do, right?
No, I mean, well, it depends on what the scenario is, but yeah, I mean, that's definitely a core element of the training of setting expectations and then putting an intentional roadblock in there to see how you adapt and overcome.
Can you give an example? I feel like you gave a good example one time before, a story of you having to adapt. Weren't you like dropped off in the middle of nowhere once?
Yeah. I'm trying to think of a good story for that. I mean, because you got like, I got a cat here. Whose cat? Is this your cat?
Yeah, that's our cat.
Okay. Hi, kitty.
This is Rambo.
It's a very
And that
friendly
feels
kitty.
very fitting if you're going to share a military story.
It dropped off in the middle of nowhere.
This is Rambo, and he's going to...
That's my whiskey, not yours.
He...
Just using me for a stool. Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, well, what comes to mind is, I've talked about it on the podcast a little bit, the Special Forces Assessment Selection. Because it's very difficult training, and the way it's set up is to make you fail and see how you adapt and overcome. Are you going to continue leading through that, or are you just going to like melt down and give up and quit? Because you can quit at any time. Most military training, you can't. It's voluntary. I mean, I remember on the first night there that it rained, like a quarter of the people just gave up. They just quit.
Just on the rain itself?
Yeah, and I'm like, what, you expected like the weather to be nice the whole time? Like what?
They wanted it sunny and 75?
I guess.
They didn't adapt very well.
They did not adapt. And that's kind of the whole name of the game in the military, specifically in special operations. Because, I mean, you've got a plan, but kind of like, what was it, Mike Tyson said, like, everyone's got a plan until you get punched in the face.
Did Mike Tyson say that?
I think so. It was one of the boxers. I'm pretty sure it's him. So don't fact check me if it's not him. But
We'll cancel
famous boxer said that, and that always resonated with me. Not that I box, but that we all have our plans in life, or as Scripture says, like man plans his ways, but the Lord. How's it go?
Proverbs 16:9.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. In his heart, a man makes his plans, but it's the Lord that determines his steps. Is that what we're referring to?
That's what I'm referring to. I don't know if it works in the context I'm trying, but my point is we all have our plans and our expectations, and quite often either God has other plans or fallen nature of the world has other plans, and you have to decide how you're going to respond to that.
Well, I'm glad that you kind of went that direction, and really you're the kind of the sage, wise elder on this episode.
Old. Yep, I got that
You
one going.
are, remind me again, like 42?
43.
43.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're
nothing like Drayton over here.
you're roughly 2.5 years older than me.
Yeah.
I'm going to be 40 here real soon,
Yeah.
but you are the sage.
You were only
elder.
2 when I was. I was only 2 when you were born.
That's right.
Ugh, I got so many
You
years
have
of
a lot
wisdom on you.
Drayton in the background
just shaking
has
his head.
way more wisdom. Right, Drayton?
Yeah, right.
Okay, there it is. There, I hope everybody heard that.
Yeah, he was expecting like a show or something. He's really disappointed.
Like 4 years on you.
All right, it's good.
So, but so you bring up this plan thing, and I was going to go the Proverbs 16:9 route because
Okay.
I mean, we're Christians, right?
Yes,
And our names are
we're
Christians.
Christians.
We're Christian squared.
Yeah.
Christian times 4. Because
Yeah,
we're also
because
Christians.
squared and yeah. I got you. Okay,
Yeah,
yep,
we
yep.
got it. But
You're so nerdy.
I know, gosh. The adaptability also comes, not just with like everyday life, but it also comes with, you kind of have a direction in your life and plans for your life, and that may often not be where God is directing you
Yeah.
as a dude.
Yep.
you know, and how do you roll with that? You know, like, so Proverbs 69 says, hey, look, you got your plans. Okay, great. But it's the Lord that's going to direct you. It's the Lord
Sure.
that's determining your steps.
God's
how
like-
do you respond to that?
God's like, that's so cute. Oh,
That's neat. You can have your plans.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and, you know, do this life
right.
thing for you.
You're like, that's cute. You think you're in charge.
Yeah, they're there. They're there, you know. So, but how do we, you know, let's go that spiritual route for a second. Like, what does it mean to adapt when things may not go our way? Especially, like, you know, as Christian men, we're, like, maybe we have a specific gal we're dating, you know, and we're like, this is the woman
one. Yeah.
that I'm going to get married to. And God's like, nope. Or this is the job that I'm going to go do. And God's like, nope. Or school or career, whatever.
Sure.
You know.
Sure. You know, this reminds me of a story from my youth.
Good.
I think it's my early 20s. One of the
It's always a good decade.
I don't know about that, but one of the first times I remember, I don't know if you could say hearing or feeling or whatever, like just kind of like God's will being impressed upon me.
Sensing.
Yes. I was dating a gal. I was actually engaged to her at the time. And I remember the conversation that I was dreading, which was, I'm not so sure we should move forward with this.
Ooh. That's the one every guy hates.
Yeah, and I remember thinking afterwards, as I was kind of taking in everything, of this is exactly what I was afraid of. Like, I was holding on to it so tight that I remember like not even being able to like really process, you know, before this conversation, like what if this doesn't work out? You know, like I was kind of, you know, idolizing this relationship and this person so much. And I remember when that happened, thinking to myself something along the lines of, if something about like a feeling of I'm pressing so hard to make this one thing happen, but nothing's lining up for it. Like it seems very clear that like this is not supposed to happen. Now I could spiritualize and say, you know, it was God, you know, not, you know, closing doors or whatever. I do believe, yeah, obviously that God orchestrates our steps and whatnot. And you know, I definitely believe, you know, had I tried to force, you know, that to work, it would not have ended well, you know. But I remember that instance specifically, like where I was, you know, kind of what I was thinking, what I was feeling at the time. It was the first time I had kind of experienced that, and every time I get that feeling, you know, in the future, I'm like, okay, this is God closing doors. Like He's saying, hey, stop pushing. You know, and the counterbalance to that is also, just because it's hard and things aren't working doesn't mean it's not God's will. And so there's not like there's a formula where, okay, things are hard and they're not lining up the way I want them to. Okay, stop.
But isn't that what adapting is? You know, like, so like
It is, yeah. So
take your military example of the people that bailed after, like, I don't know, a hard night of rain, or maybe it wasn't even a hard night of rain. It was just rain.
Sure.
You know, like,
Sure, when things get tough,
some
quit,
people, yeah, right. I mean, like, because it's hard doesn't necessarily mean it isn't what God wants you to do.
Right, and that's the balance, you know. Like if, sorry, those tobacco leaves get stuck in my mouth. You know, because there's not like well, it gets tough, then that's God telling you not to. Like, well, sometimes it's just life gets tough, things don't work out. You know, like the fall or Satan or whatever, like, you know, maybe it's God's will for you to push forward. You know, how do you adapt? And that's kind of what we're talking about. You know, because you could adapt by taking the hint that God's telling you, this is not my will for you, this will lead to bad things, and you stop or you shift, or you know, you kind of get confirmation, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, this is the best thing, and you change your game plan if, you know, certain avenues or strategies are not working out.
Yeah, I 100% agree. As you were talking, I was thinking about originally why I came up with this topic, and I kind of went over, you know, the inspiration for this topic, And I was thinking about
getting
it.
pissed off at traffic.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, or you know what? Actually, being pissed off at being inconvenienced.
Okay, sure.
Yeah,
Yep.
I was feeling inconvenienced, and I wanted to address men in general, but I think specifically I was feeling it as kind of a husband, because I was thinking to myself, my wife is really inconveniencing me right now. You know, like
Mine doesn't do that ever. Right, Drayton? Yeah.
every sane guy out there was like, "Shut up, Christian! Shut up, shut up." But I thought to myself, man, I am really being inconvenienced right now, and I thought of all the different responses that I wanted to give my wife, like, wow, you really messed up my day, like you really messed up like what I was supposed to do.
Sure.
And that's why this topic of adaptation came to mind. It's like I think sometimes, at least in this situation, which felt like a little bit of a relational marital situation for me, like I needed to adapt and actually be gracious and actually just roll with the fact that, like, all right, well, my schedule isn't going to move forward the way that I anticipated it, and I don't need to take it out on my wife, you know? Because, I mean, honestly, like, if I had a fight with my wife, you know, between there and here, I think this episode would suck a lot, because I'd still be kind of in the middle of fighting with her and not being able to think clearly. But
Sure.
I think God was able to give me at least some clear thought to adapt and go, you know what, I need to be gracious in this situation. But that's not every situation for me when it comes to adapting. There's
Sure.
sometimes where I want to push back on it and go, screw this. Like, this sucks, and I'm going to be really pissed off about it because that
Right.
feels really good. But ultimately, it's never usually that productive. I ranted there for a while. Did it feel good?
Mm.
No.
Good.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I wanted to talk about that because I just think, in general, dudes, we don't adapt well. Maybe Christian does over here. Maybe Christian adapts well because of his military training.
I think it depends. Depends on how big of a sacred cow is being thwarted, I guess, or being, questioned.
Yeah,
So.
and I like that you brought in sacred cows and idols and stuff like that, because I think that's at the core of our either adapting or not adapting. Is and oftentimes it's us that we are worshiping. It's us that, our schedule, our, like, how dare you do this to me,
Right.
and that's
Being
where
inconvenience.
that's where my heart was, which is a little bit of like, hey, I'm ruler here, But I think, guys, men, we don't adapt well. Like, we just don't, and we want to be in charge of our life, and we want things to be done in the manner that we want things done, and we don't want to be flexible, and we want to give the perspective or give the presentation that we are gracious, kind, merciful, and loving. But oftentimes, when it comes to situations where we need to be adaptable, we're not, and so we're unloving, and we're angry, and we show our hand. We end up being kind of the one on the throne rather than Christ.
I'm just going to leave awkward pause in there and see what you say next.
See if I just keep talking.
Yeah, see if you just keep talking.
Maybe he'll just keep going.
No, I concur. I mean, I can't speak for women in general because I am not one, though I'm married to one. I'm sure that they have their own issues and sin with, not being flexible or whatever those idols look like. But but I know for me, like you're saying, I mean the kind of when people question my authority.
You respect my authority.
Yeah, that tends to be a trigger, whether that's my wife or my son. That when they start pushing back, and I interpret it as being disrespectful, that's a pretty short fuse for me. But like we're trying to teach our son, you have to be adaptable. Like how you can't control what happens to you, but you can control how you respond to that.
Yeah.
And that much more so when you're reliant on Christ and being driven by His heart as opposed to my will and my agenda.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of great verses that I think address this issue, but the one that has always stood out to me is that one that I shared, Proverbs 69. And so, men, I would really encourage you to think about this. I know that it feels like, we're not giving you 7 points or 6 points of like this is what you need to do to be more adaptable, but
this has points.
This does have points.
Lucky 7. It's got 7 points. You should be drinking this while you listen. It's a much better episode if you have a whiskey while you listen.
Drink bourbon so you can be adaptable, or don't. I don't know. That came out weird, but we're not going to give you like 5, 6, 7 different points that you follow to be adaptable. I think that if you're seeking to know Christ and you're seeking to be in relationship with Christ and you're seeking to exemplify Christ every day, following what the Bible says and being in relationship in community, I think adaptability is going to come along with that. So I'm sure there's great books out there on adaptability. I just don't know what they are. So just trust what this podcast says and go follow Christ, and you'll find yourself being adaptable.
Yeah, I hope this episode wasn't a total waste of your time. So if it was, next one. The next one will be better.
The next one will definitely be better, which we'll record in a few minutes.
Yes.
That being said, we love you, dads. We're praying for you, and that is a sincere comment. And we care about you, even if we don't know you. Please do hit us up in the DMs and let us know what we can pray for you on. And if there's any topics that you might want us to cover, we're happy to do that. We're always looking for new perspectives and new topics to cover, especially from a Christian dad perspective. Check out Instagram, Facebook,
YouTube's.
Any other social media that I'm missing?
Just pick one and stick with it.
Clubhouse, maybe eventually.
Maybe we'll get on there.
Maybe eventually.
Yeah. I mean, I'm on there, but the podcast isn't.
The podcast is on there, but maybe one day
So we can start having discussions on there. Should we do that? Let us know if you're on Clubhouse.
That's right. Until next time, enjoy a really good bourbon. Peace out.